Rural Heritage on RFD TV is brought to you by Rural Heritage Magazine, a bi-monthly magazine featuring articles about farming and logging with draft animal power, small-scale diversified family farming and homesteading, and other aspects of our rich rural heritage. Rural Heritage Magazine, borrowing from yesterday to do the work of today. For subscription information, please call 319-362-3027 or order online at www.ruralheritage.com.
Well, in 2015, we decided to build our new home here. We bought the 55 acres and wasn't sure what we were going to do with it, so we decided to build our new home here. Well, we started cutting the timber off and just realized that the trees are really good trees, big trees, and I hated to just push that off in a gully, so I thought I had always wanted to build a cabin like my great-grandfather built up in Blairsville, Georgia. And I went up and measured it probably 30 years ago and had the size and everything down the way I wanted to build it. So it's built identically the size of his original cabin was. So when we got these logs, I'd take my loader and pile them up to the side, and I thought, well, we might as well go ahead and have them sawed into the timber for a cabin. So that's what we did, and as they were building the house, I teased the builder. I told him, I said, now, I'm going to build the cabin and build it all myself. I won't hire anyone no builders to build it. I'll do the work myself, and if I get through first, you'll owe me $1,000. If you get through first, I'll pay you $1,000. So we got right down to the end. So I'd work some, he'd work some. We weren't really sure who finished first. I still say he's not through with my house over there, so he still owes me the $1,000. We built it identical inside to the old original England cabin, with the exception the England cabin had a loft in it and this one didn't have. So people would come and visit to see our house, what we were doing on it. When they came through out on the porch and saw the cabin, they forgot about the house. They came to the cabin. They said, oh my goodness, I could live here. Rita and I last winter enjoyed the fire in the fireplace. We would toast marshmallows on the fire, and we did a couple of meals on our wood cook stove inside. So we plan to do more of that this winter. We have a little more time. Most of the farms in the South, farm homes, never planted grass in their yard. I know our place, my dad would have me to go to the creek and pull up, scoop up sand out of the creek and haul it to the house and put on the yards. Now, this is builder's sand here. It's not like the creek sand we used to use, but we can kind of demonstrate it. And when trash fell on the sand, my mother always wanted to keep the yard swept. A good person, well thought of people would always keep their yards clean. And my mother would have me to go to the woods and cut a dogwood bush, and that's what this is. I cut this morning. You tie a string around it so it holds these branches together. And when you sweep the yard, of course, you just take it and go across it like this right here, and you can actually clean a yard. And where the chickens has been, they'll leave their droppings, and she always wanted all of that cleared out of the yard. So that's what a brush broom or a yard broom, you can call it either one and be correct. This is what was used in the South. Now we'll move inside now, and I'll demonstrate the other brooms that we made. A lot of people ask where I came up with the idea of the door latch, and it's basically like my grandfather's latch was. If you notice the latch, you pull the rope to unlatch it. Now, if you're in here, you have a peg that you put in that, and then it won't unlock it. So you can actually lock yourself in. That locks the door. My handles I made out of cedar. I just cut them out, put them together. We were demonstrating the yard broom outside. We also had to make our own brooms for the inside of the houses. And we would go out, broom straw, you see this growing in the south, out over fields, and we would gather this broom straw up and tie it together real tight on the bottom like this, leave it bunched out here, and this was what was used to sweep in the house with. You use this on the floors and doing your sweeping, and you think it wouldn't do much, but it does quite a good job if you didn't have a broom. So these were seen in most all of your southern homes. Now, on the talk a little bit about some of the furniture in here. This is a Home Comfort wood cook stove, and it actually works, and we've used it 2 or 3 times. It has a 30-gallon water reservoir on this side that you would fill that up with water, and when you built your fire to cook breakfast of a morning, then your water was hot to sponge off and shave or whatever you had to do, but you had warm water for that. And we had the lamp lights that was used in homes in the South before electricity was available. And now the wood cook stove, back then you could order a stovewood box to go with the stove, and this is an original stovewood box that was made and shipped with the stove. And your stove wood, you always cut the wood about 12 or 14 inches long and split it, and you put that in the stove to build your fire with. On the wall, you'll see a variety of pans that was used that you used on the stove. You see this one with the little legs on it, which can also be used in the fireplace. And we had also had what we call kettles that we put water in, and you could put those on the stove and heat water in those as well. And we had a pot that was used, and the pot, if you just set it on the stove, it don't set too good because the legs hose it up off of the eye, and you always took and lifted the eye off, and your pot fits right down in this where the stove eye was, and you remove the eye when you're cooking in the pot. Now you can also use this pot in the fireplace, and I have a swing out here that you hang your pot on, and you can swing it over the fire, and you can also cook in the pot. We have the butter churn, and I also have a porcelain butter churn, but this was one that the more modern homes had in them, I guess, but I'll show how it works. But it has the dash on the inside, and you turn it like this, and that's what actually how you make your butter. with a churn. Now we had the Hoosier Cabinet over here, and the cabinet is it has you would put your cornmeal in this bin here, and then to sift it, you had your sifter under here that you use. Put your bowl under here and sift it and get the bran out of it. You had other storage area up here with a roll-up top and storage down here with drawers. And the used to always use lard. This is Swift Silverleaf pure lard. That's an old can from back in the 50s. But you cook with lard, and most, we had our own lard at home. We'd kill our own hogs and cook out lard. And my daddy was a builder, and he always carried his lunch when he worked, and he had always put his coffee, had it in the top, and had his biscuits in here. So he always carried his lunch in an old-timey lunch box. Now the water, we always had to draw the water out of the well, and you always had a fresh bucket of water in the house to drink. Back then, all the family, the children, everybody drunk out of it. You just got a drink of water and you drink. Sometimes if you saw someone didn't have their mouth clean too good, you might get your drink and drink on this side of the dipper as well, but we wouldn't consider that as being very sanitary today. Now the table over here, I cut a wild cherry tree, and it's got about 16-inch boards that I made my table out of. It's full wild cherry, the legs and all is wild cherry. And we demonstrated the door a few minutes ago. We have the same lock here on the back door, and it opens the same way. That goes out on the back porch. If you wanted grits for breakfast, you could put a shell and ear of corn, throw it in there, grind it, and you caught them here. And then you could cook your own grits on the stove. And I'll demonstrate a grits meal out on the back a little later. For a place to hang your coats and things, this is a strip I just cut off of a cedar tree, and that's the limb sticking out. And I have one by the door there.
Are those kettles cast iron?
Yes, these are cast iron. And they have the original lids on them that slide open. And those are some of the later years they started making stainless steel and aluminum kettles, but these are before that. In probably the 1800s, that's all you had. You have the original eye lifter here that you set your eyes. You stick your wood in there, or if it's already burning, you have to open the door here, and you stick your wood in here. Now, when you get through and you want to shake the ashes down, this has the little thing here you put on it, and you can turn that back and forth, and that shakes the ashes down into this pan here. You can take that out and carry your ashes out. And you have the oven here that you put your pans in to cook your bread and what have you.
I don't think you gotta take it out.
Okay. These water reservoirs will come out where you can clean them, and that you can see here they're pretty deep and they're pretty wide and fairly long. So that will hold 30 gallons of water.
Whose job was it to start the fire in the morning?
most of the time after I got up 10, 12 years old, my dad would always call me and said, go ahead and start the fire in the fireplace and the wood cook stove. And we had what we call kindling, lighter pine, rich pine. We'd cut it in little small pieces. You put 3 or 4 pieces in there and then put your stove wood, and it'd really start blazing up and burning. Then my mother would get up and put the bread on and start cooking. My mantle here was a piece of cedar tree that I cut, and I cut this out on one side with a chainsaw, and then I have a log saw that's cut 16 inches, and I run it on both sides and then dressed it, sanded it down. And this, I put my rods in my masonry, and I can take that and slide it off if I wanted to. And then, of course, I think I showed my fire dogs are made out of the first railroad tracks that came down through Hall County. They're very small, and then put horseshoes on the front, draft horseshoes. And this is a little old washstand that belonged to my wife's mother, I think she said. And we'll go to the bedroom now. One other thing I'll mention while we're in here, I don't know what they call them, but my parents called them iron last, that you worked on your shoes. You could work on the heel there. If it's a man's shoe, you could slide it here. Sometimes the soles would start coming off, and you could buy the tacks to tack your soles back on, or you could buy half soles and do your own half soling of shoes. And when the nail went through, this would brad the nail and turn it where it wouldn't irritate your foot. Then normally a child's shoe or maybe a lady's was half soled on the smaller side. And my mother always used this for a door stop. That's the reason I have it here. When I open this door, I slide that over. It keeps the door open. We'll move into the bedroom now. Most of the time, curtains was made out of whatever material you had. A lot of them were made out of what we call guiana sacks. Guiana was a fertilizer that was used, that we used under cotton and corn in our gardens. And guiana was actually made from bat litter and other stuff mixed with it. And guiana then came in 200-pound bags, and it took a pretty good man to lift a 200-pound bag of fertilizer. But that's the way it was shipped. Now the curtains here, I mentioned, these are made of burlap. If you notice my curtain hangers up there, it's where I've cut that off of a cedar with a limb sticking out with a bamboo cane through it. So you used whatever was available that you could make things out of. I mean, you didn't go town and buy a curtain rod or whatever. You made it. And that's what we've done on this cabin. Now, you also didn't have running water in these cabins in a lot of the southern homes before power came. And so they had what they called a lot of them called them slop jars, but they were potties that you had really especially for the children that had to go to the bathroom at night, and they could have these potties. Now, we had one that was out of the frame, but this particular one, bring it out to where we can see it, was a store-bought that had a wooden lid. You took this off, and then there sits your potty. It's down in the thing, and then of course you took it out on the back here to empty it, but you had your stool cut pretty much like the outside bathrooms were. Now This is just a little thing to put things in. This is another of the old-timey wash stands that belonged to my wife. An old cane-bottom chair, and then, of course, our bed. That bed was bought in the 1800s, I was told, and I haven't sanded it, done anything to it. I left it all original. Now, my walls and ceiling is what you call board batten. So we used whatever we had, whatever width board. You'll see some wide, some narrow, and then you put the strip over the crack. Did the same overhead. And then the flooring is just the pine that was cut here. And we did sand it down just a little bit so you can sweep it.
The ceiling insulated? The walls insulated?
No, the walls has tar paper on the floor here and overhead, and then the lumber put on it. Now, with the logs are 6 inches thick, then you got the lumber on the outside with a filler in the joints on the outside, and it's pretty tight. When they were building log homes, they had special saws like you don't have power tools. You didn't have those then, but you had a saw like this that was what was a one-man saw. You can saw firewood with it too, but it was mainly used in the carpenter work. You could take that and saw your logs off the length if you wanted, or you could take this one with 2 men could cut it off, and then cutting the trees, you could use a bigger saw, and of course you can get a longer stroke and saw much more with those. But these are saws, if you'll notice, most of the cross cuts that I've got are pretty well straight, and these really have a bow, and what that does, it gives that round effect, and it really pulls cuts it down good in the center, and then you can cut the outside. Makes it a little easier sawing. You always had a place you washed your hands and your face outside, and if you were working, you come in and you had water in a bucket out here, and you had the wash pan that you wash your hands in outside, and you always cut a hole in the shelf. The purpose of a hole in the shelf was when you threw your water out and put your pan down, if you just put it up here like this and you had kind of a hard wind, it blows your wash pan off. This will never blow out of the hole here, so you put your water in it, you wash your hand. Usually you had Octagon soap that you used, and the big bar of soap. Now, this is a little cherry pitter here that you could pit cherries with. Now, we had the little grits mill on the inside. Now, if you wanted to make cornbread, shell about 3 or 4 ears of corn, you could pour quite a bit of corn in here. You turned it, and that grinds your cornmeal, and you can adjust it to where you can make fine cornmeal or a little bit coarser.
This program is available for purchase. To order your copy, please call 319-362-3027 or visit www.ruralheritage.com. Rural Heritage is a bi-monthly magazine dedicated to draft animal farming and logging, as well as other aspects of our rich rural heritage. It is published by Mishka Press, which also offers a complete line of back-to-the-land books, DVDs, and calendars. Call or write for a catalog or subscription information, or visit our website at www.ruralheritage.com.